It's Wednesday, 3rd of April 2024, and in today's show, we nail the coffin shut of our hopes of reaching the coveted 6th spot as the pool put in a winless and goalless hat-trick of performances since the last pod, culminating with a turgid stalemate against Wycombe on Saturday at Bloomfield Road. I'm John Aspinall. This is the Seaside's podcast, extra time show, season over. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Seaside's podcast on a Wednesday evening in the studio. This evening are Andy, Nick, and Tom. Andy, do unmute your mic. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of noise coming down the microphone of the Grice Reaper this evening.
A goalless. Look at this top, super dry of goals. Well, that's what I am since the last pod. Dry of goals. An absolute dry goal fest, wasn't it? What a spell we've had.
One goal in 5. Just the sort of playoff form you need, Tom. When sort of form you need to be hitting when you're running into the playoffs.
Yeah, it was that goal against Northampton, the one I saw, the one game I've been to out of them 5, and I think I saw the only goal, which was a scramble on the line, wasn't it, from 1 yard? So it was a pleasure to witness it.
Apologies to everyone if you are tuning in and we're a bit late this evening. My colleague, my long-established colleague, the most experienced member of this panel, rocked up with 1 hour, 1 minute and 30 seconds before kick-off, and he was doing a Tim Fielding.
Right, well, in my defence, my good lady wife remembered at 7 o'clock she had an online assessment to do for tonight, was the deadline. So she got that done at 3, finished at 3 minutes to 8. So I ran upstairs and it's all set up, my mic and everything. So I joined and I could hear you, but you couldn't hear me. So I was doing the usual with settings, then realised that it was this technical matter of the headphones not being plugged in. Then plugged them in and then realised that I've got 2 sets and they're both identical. Oh, yeah. And I plugged the other ones in. So, yeah, great start. Can only improve.
We normally have to put up with that kind of behaviour from Mr. Fielding, but as he is now, like Judith Chalmers, has more holidays than her. He's sunning himself in, where is it?
Barbados.
Barbados at the moment.
Barbados, yeah. So people have been wondering where he is. Yeah, he's just always on holiday, so no doubt he'll be tuning in at some point. But right, we have got a lot to catch up on since the last pod. The last podcast was entitled Playoff Push. That went well, didn't it?
Hey, come on, it's still possible. It's not quite season over. I mean, the rather large lady is on stage, and her microphone's working, and she's
unlike yours, Nick.
Yeah, and she is probably about to start singing in the next few days.
I'm just about to call the nurse for Nick.
Listen, I know what's coming, so I'm thinking, let's get some positivity in, because it's going to be an hour and a half of,
Critch bashing,
moaning, and then good news about the training ground at the end. So start on a positive, finish on a positive.
Should we start on a positive then? Should we talk about the training ground before we get into the real meat of this show?
Obviously, I suppose the first stage of it, because there's 2 councils to approve, isn't there? Because it's over the border of Wyre and Blackpool councils, and Wyre have approved the planning permission today. So you'd like to think that Blackpool Council will follow suit. Been a long time coming, but it's great news. It's something that fans talk about a lot. We've had 30 years of promises, haven't we? But the vast majority of those weren't down to the current owner. And to be fair, it is I suppose still quite a drawn out process. They looked at a good number of sites, and that will take time. And then you've got to decide which one you're ending up with. And even then, I can't imagine it's a case of you put one lot of plans in and it's done. There have been a lot of back and forth with reports and amendments and things like that to get to the point where you do your final submission, and it was submitted and it was recommended that it was going to be approved. So it's good news. It's still got to be built, but I don't think for a minute that Simon Sadler would have gone through everything he's gone through, and he will have spent a heck of a lot of money just getting to this point. It won't be a few quid. So I have every confidence that once it does get approved by Blackpool as well, it will go ahead, and it'll, by the sounds of it, something to be proud of. And yeah, it's a long time coming, but it's good news, and it's one. I suppose it'll be one less thing for people to be wondering what's going on with or complaining about. So yeah, good news.
Good news for some, not so good news for others. Namely, he's not in the room at the moment, but my canine friend Ted told them the news before. He was not happy about that, as it's on my doorstep, destroying his dog walk. And David Underwood, where are we going to walk the dogs now, John? Bumped into David on there. I don't know how we got talking. I think he said, "That I know you from somewhere," and explained. He said, "Oh yeah." So it's a bit rough on Ted.
I think you might have to pick pitch 3 and walk them around that one. Out the 10 pitches they're proposing. We'll look in amongst any negativity that I and others spout about the manager and everything else like that. We all want the same thing here. We all want a successful Blackpool in amongst the fan base. That's what we want, right? We've had so many false dawns with training grounds and stadiums and everything, and a spade has never gone in the ground. So some people are cynical and still cynical over whether the training ground will happen, and we all hope, as Nick's alluded to, that a few quid's gone into this, right? And we're taking it in the right direction. That's what we all hope, right? That's definitely what we all hope, right? But the team and the club and the club in the community, and from that I don't mean just the community trust. I mean, in the breadth of our community, can't go backwards because we're investing in a training ground. That's for sure, right? Because we haven't got far to go backwards, right? With our league position and things like that. So there's a hell of a lot. There's a hell of a lot that's not right at the minute. The training ground's one, the team's another, the manager's another.
This was the good news bit.
Seem to believe that planning's good. Hey?
This is the good news bit.
No. What I'm saying to you, we want it. This is what we want. We want it to be right, and we want it. We want us to be successful. We want us to be in the strong in the community, right? So that's what we all want. So don't mistake any negativity for things like that. We don't want that. We do want it, and I desperately hope we do get that training ground in 2 years' time. And
I don't
really do.
Yeah. I don't think it will be a case of, we're having to spend X many million on a training ground, so it's going to restrict potentially what we would have been spending. I think it will be effectively 2 separate pots of money, won't it? That there's X amount put aside for a training ground, and there'll be X amount for players and budgets and wages, etc. for players. I agree, that we of course we don't want to go backwards, and I think we've talked many times, haven't we, about training ground and being able to attract quality of players. And I always remember when Larry was manager, he famously used to go and meet the players. I think where he lived in Skipton or somewhere at the time, and not take them to Squires Gate until after they'd signed on the dotted line. And I think with a new state-of-the-art training ground, that's something that, if a player's maybe undecided and you show them round it, it could be the deciding factor. So I think there'll be there'll be positives from that as well.
I think the thing is, from the player's point of view, it's where they do the most of their work, isn't it? That most of their work life is spent on training ground. So they want good facilities and good pitches and the chance to have a dome and things like that. That's what they want.
And dome's shit, actually, Andy. I've been in it. Just to cut in, I've played my boys in that dome, and it's kind of not big enough for 11-a-side. It's not big enough for 9-a-side. It's a bit of a white elephant, I think, but it's an indoor facility anyway. Just one point I want to,
if you want the next category.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I just hope they reconsider not allowing local grassroots teams to use it. So that wasn't in the plans originally, because around Polton, desperate we are around here for a 4G pitch for the local teams. FC Rangers, 2 Polton clubs. We've got nowhere to play. So I think we've played about 3 home games all season at Cottermore. So it's just terrible. So I'm just praying that they allow the grassroots clubs to play on there. And also, I think it's a good way to get the kids involved in Blackpool. So I think I said to Tim and on air before, Fleetwood teams dominate grassroots, and that's because of Poolfoot Farm. And you'd like to think that getting these kids involved in successful Blackpool grassroots teams is the way to go, and get the best players in this area and mould them and shape them and get them into the Blackpool academies. So that can only be a good thing. Right.
And it can generate revenue as well, can't it? It can, if you look at Poolfoot, the pitches are probably booked out, most weekends and nights, and it's money coming in as well, isn't it? And it's a good way of funding it. So who knows? It might be something that changes in the future.
I just pray they do. I just don't see the reason why you wouldn't anyway.
But this is what I'm saying about the community. That's the community aspect for me, and that's what we need to keep doing, and that's really important, that we have kids growing up wanting desperately to be Blackpool fans and wanting to just proud of our facilities, proud of the fact that they can go down there maybe, and then and also they're proud to be a Blackpool fan at the games as well. That's what we want.
Yeah.
Currently,
it annoys me. It annoys me, Andy, seeing all the Fleetwood Town teams dominating grassroots, which is what they do. They've got all the best youth players. They've got 3 teams in the top league. They just suck in all the best players, and that's because of Poolfoot, not because of the facilities. And I'd like to think this would be a conduit for Blackpool to reverse that, get their own youth teams going, pick up the best talent.
Just one point on in terms of the investment for the team. If you notice what Sadler said in his recent interview, I think it was on BBC Lancashire, he was saying about he put a pin in the stadium and training ground talk, didn't he, really, and focused fully on getting out of this league. That was exactly what he's after at the moment, and just said everything else can wait. Not that he's putting anything on pause, but the priority is getting out of this league and having the budget available to do that. So decision making's been pretty poor for the last 2 years in terms of where we've ended up versus where we were, but we obviously had a top 6 budget. I would expect it's going to be a massive summer for us. Let's not get it wrong. And there's a few players out of contract this summer. Not going into them too much, but Lavery and Ekpiteta are the 2 you would expect to walk away for free. So that's 2 more first teamers gone. Big opportunity for him to get his hand in his pocket and reinvest, because we need strengthening this summer with so many loan players in the first team as well. So, yeah, I think we need to, and we will see some strong statements of intent from Sadler, whilst obviously the training ground and the stadium are rumbling on in the background for the next couple of years.
It's good that it's actually rumbling, I guess, and not steaming ahead. I'm sure that's a phrase he won't want to use. Okay, let's catch up then very, very briefly. We don't want to talk about these games too much. Blackpool went to Wigan. I've put it the wrong way around, haven't I? I'll fix that. We obviously lost 1-0 at Wigan. The main takeaway from that game was the injury to Jordan Rhodes ending his season, which was a big, big blow.
Yeah, it was, and I thought I saw, when it happened and he was kind of reaching for his knee, you fear the worst, and he did get up and try and carry on, didn't he? But he knew pretty much straight away that he wasn't going to be able to carry on, and I mean, he's not been as prolific in the second half of the season than he was in the first. However, he's still our best striker, isn't he? And going into those last few games, you'd certainly much rather have him in the squad and starting than being out injured. And it is a real shame because he's probably the best finisher, I've said before, we've had since Kevin Phillips, isn't he? Such a natural finisher, and he'll be a loss, that's for sure. But I don't think he will be. I mean, they've said this, if it went into the playoffs, he might be back. And one, I don't think we're going to get there. And two, I think even if somehow we scraped it, for an injury like that, you're looking at, you've got to get match fitness, haven't you? And where's that going to come from? So it's not necessarily the last time we've seen him in a Blackpool shirt. He is out of contract at the end of the season. We're still looking like we'll be in this league. So you'd hope if we are looking to sign him that would be in pole position, because he talked quite a few times about how much he was enjoying his time here and how much he enjoyed his football. He'd been sitting on the bench at Huddersfield and started most weeks for us. So we could well see him back next season, fingers crossed.
That's enough for someone to talk about Wigan.
It looked bad, didn't it?
Yeah,
it just looked bad when he trapped it. No, he trapped the ball, didn't he, into the tackle? The Wigan fans gave him dog's abuse, saying he dived and whatever, and booing him. One particular guy was just a disgrace in front of his kids, like the amount of crap that he gave to Rhodes, and then eventually when he had to go off, he stood there clapping, and he's just like, incredible.
This is a Blackpool fan.
But anyway, no, this is a Wigan idiot. But anyway, I digress from the performance. It was as bland can be, I think, and it just another huge letdown in front of a massive following, and we just offered very little, did we? A little snippet, a couple of snippets in the second half. Lavery had a shot, didn't he, that hit this sort of side netting, but we were miles off, I thought. From if we look like it, if we wanted to look like a team that was going there to win, like, and this is what drives us all mad, is we all go to those games and we want a team to go with a real intent to win and just excite us. Even if we lose that game 3-2 or something, and we've thrown the kitchen sink at it and we've made a couple of mistakes at the back, we can cope with it. But when you keep going away with a big following and get beat 1-0, the fans are bored to death. And I know you've got the same problem with Eddie, and I've got it with my grandson, right? I took him to Wigan. He was really excited. I took him into the pub before. There were all the Blackpool fans singing away in the pub. It was fantastic. And it was absolutely fantastic. And he was dead excited when he went into the stadium, and they're all singing on the concourse, and he was loving it. And he went in with a real smile on his face. And after about an hour, he turned around to me and he looked up at me and he said, "This is boring." And how gut-wrenching that is for someone who really wants his kid to be a Blackpool fan and be proud. He goes to school in Chorley, right? And he's going up to his classmates telling them he's a Blackpool fan and gets derided because of how we are at the minute, right? But he still believes in it. And then he goes to those games and he wants to be excited and he's bored to death. And we as a fan base bored of the football that Critchley's playing at the minute, and it's just it's not on, and it needs to change.
I had to
What
physically
we put in this?
go on, Tom.
Sorry,
Go on.
Tom.
No, go on.
I was going to say I've got to drop off in a couple of minutes, but what we're putting this away record down to, and how do we fix it for next season? Is it a character thing in terms of as soon as we go a goal behind, we throw the towel in, or is it a quality thing because we can't break teams down when we're probably the better team in most cases away from home? You know, we struggle against the weaker sides. We've obviously done well at most of the top six. What do we actually think it's down to? I know it's probably more than one thing, but it's obviously been our undoing this season because our home form's been all right.
It's the way we're set up, I guess.
I don't know what the answer is, but it's got to be something, isn't it, that needs to change for next season.
Yeah, I think some of it's down to the system. It's like you say, maybe is it a character thing or becomes a bit psychological where you go 1-0 down. I was talking to, I remember it was Lee Good and a couple of others in the Phoenix Club before the game on Saturday, and saying like, when you've got these performances where it's a bit drab at half time, is there anybody in that team who you think's, sort of giving one or two a few home truths and saying, yeah, I should have stayed in the Phoenix Club, you're right, Lee. Sort of a bit of steel and a bit of character, telling people, look, you need to do this with your man, you've not put a tackle in. Even if the manager's being nicey about it, just someone to be a bit, do you know what I mean? Have a bit of character about it. And I don't think you look around that team and think we go 1-0 down. Who's doing that? Who's having that? You look to your captain, but I'm not sure he's doing it. And then other than that, I don't think anybody else is. And I think that's something that needs to be addressed in the summer. You want someone with a bit of bottle and who's gonna tell it how it is. And I think we're lacking. That's one of the things we're lacking. The other is, I just think the in-game management. It's a bit rinse and repeat, isn't it? That you can sort of see it after 10 minutes what it's going to be like. The opposition will gradually get the better of us. Wigan weren't brilliant, but they didn't need to be. I thought they drove through midfield, and we didn't at all. And that was one of the differences in the game. And then it'll be a couple of subs on 70 minutes, same system. 10 minutes to go, we'll have a bit of a go. I think Joseph had a couple of chances, and yeah, you come out of another game just feeling really, really frustrated. And you compare it to the home record, and I think we've still got, is it the third best in the division, unbeaten in, 4 and a bit months? And some of those performances haven't been great at home, and Saturday was really poor, as we'll come on to. But we've managed to get over the line in a lot of them. And Critch talks about fine margins. And like Jim said to me on Saturday, he says fine margins, but we seem to be on the wrong end of those fine margins in away games, time and time again. It's never fine margins, and we've just about edged it, other than, against a really poor Northampton team recently. And yeah, we won at Shrewsbury. But there's so many where you go into it with a bit of hope, and it's the same sort of performance. And like Tom said, it's going to be a big rebuild in the summer. There's plenty going, and there's going to need to be plenty to come in. And you just want to see us have I think Mitch said it in the WhatsApp group, Critchley's staying, and it looks like he is. Then you want to see some progress. I don't think we sort of looked like we were starting to progress as the season went on, and that, once we'd sorted the inverted wing back stuff out, and you got kind of Coulson in and Gabriel in, and they were starting a few games. But can you say any players have really, really developed? I don't think we have. I don't think we've massively developed as the season's gone on. And you want to see that and see a bit of a plan where, even if you're going to have bad days at the office, but you can walk out of the ground going, do you know what? We keep doing this. We're not going to be far away. And it feels like we're not there this season, and it's going to be a big rebuild in the summer.
A few comments coming in relating to that question. Good one from Craig. Andy, teams can plan months ahead to play against us because of our rigidity.
And he's right.
True.
And Dave already mentioned about Richie Wellens as well, and what he said. It was just so easy to set up against us, and teams just find it very, very easy. And and they just don't have to come out. They just like let us have the ball and then just do what they need to do. And as soon as they get a goal, they pretty much know they're not going to concede. Obviously, we've had the odd nugget in there, but nothing much. And it just feels really depressing watching us. It's 15 games without a goal. It's a lot. That's a lot. And we just, in a lot of them games, we haven't really looked like scoring either. So it's he's stuck with his 5 at the back all year, hasn't he? He's completely stuck with this. And he said we haven't got the players to play 4 at the back, right? But
we haven't got the players to play this 5.
Like, try it. We can't be any worse.
No,
we can't. If we get beat 3 or 4-0, well, I've tried to put another system in, right? But don't keep going and going and going with the same system. Brings the same result over and over and over again. I think, is it 7-1-0s away or something like that? I think we've had 7-1-0s we've lost away. And well, it's always going to be fine margins, but saying fine margins and then we don't pick anything out those 7 games, and the team pick 3 points up and they say, "Oh, thank you very much, move on." And I really, 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 really worry about how many season ticket holders are gonna jib bit this year, because it honestly has been boring to watch. Even some of the wins I felt have been boring, and I'm not the only one. Loads of us are talking about it, but okay, you got to hold your hands up then and go, a win's a win, okay, move on. But we just can't keep doing what we're doing. It's just not right. Doesn't feel right. Doesn't look right. And culmination is the start of the fight back from the fans against the system was at the end of the game against Wycombe, I think.
Yeah. Let's address that point that Andy's just brought up, actually, and Tony Lawson said the same in the comments. I'm seriously thinking of not renewing. I can't be the only one, can I? I'll just wade in, Tony, and then you can have your say there. So where I am with this is I'm having the same thoughts as well. I never thought I'd say it. So, unless anything changes, I'm not going to go to every game next season, because I'll probably buy a season ticket because it works out better value over the season. But I probably won't. If it's as we've just seen all last season, I will not be going to every game. And the reason why is because I think when you're getting older in life, you're not just. I think you want to do other things rather than just blindly go to Bloomfield Road. If you know what's going to happen, it's the same thing over and over and over again. So why waste your life watching that every Saturday? You know, like if it's a nice day, I think I'd probably just go on a family day out, something like that, go to the lakes, enjoy the day rather than be depressed. And that's what Eddie has said to me. He said I was like up for Derby away. Then I was, shan't I? And Eddie said to me, "Why bother going all that way to get bored and then get depressed on a 2-hour journey on the way home?" And he's 10. And I thought, well, I can't argue. I can't argue with that. And something has to change next season, whether it's a managerial change, a change in system, or a complete overhaul in the squad that can play Critchley's system. But something has to change, or I think numbers will drop at Bloomfield Road. Nick, where do you stand on this?
I'll be renewing. I can understand why people, maybe not doing. Probably as much for the social side as anything else. You know, see me mates, have a couple of pints. I've had season tickets when it's been good. I've had season tickets when it's been absolutely grim. You know, you think what it was like on like Worthington, for example, where you were just like, well, what am I? I think I fell asleep one game. I actually fell asleep. But I'll still go because it's my team and it's what you do. I think you're talking about what needs to happen. Well, the squad overhaul, I think, is going to happen because you look at who's out of contract, who's going to go. We say every window, don't we? It's a massive window, and it feels like a rebuild every summer, and this will probably be another one. And then who knows, like you say, if he gets players that can play that system more effectively, then we'll see.
Do we think there's going to be a big drop-off in season ticket sales next season?
I think there will be some who'll pick and choose. And I think there'll be some who are sort of saying they're wavering and not going to, and when it comes down to it, it'll go, oh, do you know what? I'm going to get one because I'll probably end up going anyway. So yeah, I will be getting one no matter what. Me and Jim the conversation will just be, are we getting the same seats? And and we will renew. How many won't? I suppose we'll see, won't we? I think this season's looking like it's petering out, but it's a long time over the summer, isn't it? And you're not watching your team, and then you'll a lot of people get the itch again and end up renewing. I think though he won't have a great number of games in the bank or credit in the bank to if he gets off to a poor start, then it could be difficult for him. I think we'll have to get off to a good start because if we don't, there's a lot of people who don't want him as manager. And if he did go, I have to say I wouldn't lose any sleep over it. But at the same time, if he's going to stay, I'm not frothing at the mouth for him to go. Things have got to improve, absolutely. And it's not necessarily just as easy as waving a magic wand at it. We've got to be entertained. You probably need to give the team time to gel because it's going to be a lot of new players. But you want to be able to, like I said before, you want to be able to see some intent and a plan and go, right, we're trying to play football the right way. And if we don't always get the right result, and you won't, because that's football and that's not unique to Blackpool. We've all been going long enough to know that. But you want to feel like we're progressing and there's a plan there, and we're starting to build a squad, whether it's over the course of a season or for the next couple of seasons, which I don't really feel we've got at the moment. So we'll see. But yeah, I will be there.
I think
Okay,
the other
so
frustration is that since Critchley's been here, how many of our homegrown have come through now? We got him in with a view that we were building our own, if not academy, that we were going to bring them into the development team and develop players and bring them through. And we've only got Apter, who's showing any signs at all, and he's really gone to the fore this year by playing at Tranmere, who seem to really like him. If we don't have Apter back and starring for us next year, I think some of the fans will implode. With regard to that,
Owen Dale's been getting plaudits at Oxford as well, and the mate's an Oxford fan, and
scored again on Saturday.
Position, yeah, scored again, playing in his position of right wing. Obviously, he can't play that for us, but yeah, he says he's made a massive difference to Oxford, and they're knocking on the door of the playoffs, and we aren't.
It's frustrating. It's just worse than frustrating. Like the Critchley doesn't think these players are anything, and yet just ships them out, and I don't know. Just frustrates the hell out of me when obviously the fans see more in these players than Critchley does, and but that said, I suppose Coulson's had a couple of good games. Coulson's had a couple of good games where he looked decent, didn't he? But like you alluded to there, John, like Dale's playing on the other side. He's playing for Oxford. Go on, Nick. Sorry.
I was just going to say, Dave Whiteside's comments, I was going to make something similar, that, the youth system, it does take time for players to come through. And I suppose we're playing catch up a little bit. And we have signed a lot of players for that development squad from, clubs up and down the country. So it might be another, it might be that in another season or whatever.
He started it 4 years ago, Nick.
Yeah.
He started it 4 years ago.
Not
4 years ago. Not one. Not a one. Right? And it's all right saying you take years and years for the under-9s and things like that. I get all that, right? But when was the last youth player to come through and be a regular first teamer? Or even blooded, for 5-6 games? We've seen all kinds of journeymen being put in, right? Do you know what? We back them if they're our own. We've got the fans will back them. They want kids from our Blackpool Academy to come through. They want local kids to come through, right? That's what they want, and they'll give them a bit of time. If you'd have put Brad Holmes in, they'd give him a bit of time, right? But they won't give a journeyman a bit more time. Joseph was apparently being signed, and he was the best thing since sliced bread. He's the best striker we could have got, allegedly, and he's done now for us, really, has he?
Not really.
No. I'm sure he does try, and the game against Bolton, he looked great, no problem. But it's been slim pickings, hasn't it?
It's been no Jerry Yates, that's for sure.
And I just blame the way they're set up. That if the players believe in his system as much as I and others do, right? The players must be hitting their head against a brick wall.
Yeah.
Because the players can't be enjoying this. They're not looking like they're enjoying it.
Is he too entrenched in this system now to change anything else? Is he too arrogant to change it, or has he backed himself into a?
I think he's too stubborn to change it.
Stubborn, yeah.
I think he's too stubborn.
I think it's an admission of failure.
Sadler allegedly has.
I've lost you, Andy.
Well, I'm not being funny, John. If you're going, if you're in your job and you kept making the same decisions over and over again, it was failing and failing and failing, you'd surely do something else. You'd do something else. You wouldn't keep going and losing money, would you? Right? You're losing your supporters. He's losing the supporters. Like, you can't keep doing this and then expecting those same supporters to go, oh, this is great. 1 goal in 5 games and we scored that from 1 yard tapping. That's not... How can that... This is the business end of the season when it all happens. Lincoln is scoring goals for fun. Does anyone think Lincoln's team is better than ours?
Man for man, probably not. But as a unit, they are, aren't they? Because the way they're set up and the system and the way they're playing and motivated, ours clearly aren't. So we've gone to Derby, lost 1-0. You could say we had the better chances there, but we've not put them away. And Derby, for me, didn't get out of third gear really. They scored and then just said, right, come and break us down, and we couldn't. So another typical Blackpool away performance.
Derby's big game was last night, wasn't it?
Yeah, what a game.
Derby's big game was last night, and their minds are obviously, I would thought, on that. As soon as they scored, just see us out. But they played us the same way at our place, didn't they? And won 3-1. Just played us on the break, and then they scored a late goal and made it 3-1. And they just played us. They just sucked us in. But you got to think at Derby, we lost 1-0 with nearly 60% possession.
He'll have loved that though, Critchley, wouldn't he?
Who's enjoying it?
He'd have loved it.
But we're moving the ball. We move the ball at snail's pace. You watch good games where teams are possession based, but they're playing well, and they're moving the ball so quick. I've taken an analogy. I don't know if anyone watched it. Brentford against United on, when was it? Sunday, was it? Sunday night. And what a game. Brentford, 30-odd shots, absolutely tore into United. Like, now, United scored in the 95th minute or something, and then Brentford equalised. But if they'd lost that game, it would have been a massive travesty. But you would have clapped them off and gone, absolutely fantastic, lads. You've given everything there. You've hit the bar 4 times. You've given everything. I don't think Brentford are that much bigger a club than us. They're just far more, the better managed and they've had a real plan as they've gone through the leagues. But what a joy it was to watch them. And that's what I want from my football club. I know we've not got as good of players, but move the ball fast.
As we
And
sang
play.
at Port Vale, we pass the
Norburn
ball
is just
and
like
do
a crab in the midfield. Yeah.
I think if you look
We
at the
did.
comments from Derby fans,
That absolutely was it.
Go on, Nick.
they actually thought we were all right just in the final third. You know, there wasn't that quality when we were in good positions. They seemed to think we were pretty decent, other than, you know, when it came to trying to put the ball in the net. But it's another game where you just feel frustrated, and when we don't create a lot of chances, the ones that you do create, we need to put in the back of the net, and we haven't had that quality in front of goal. And it's probably where you're needing one of them to fall to Jordan Rhodes rather than one of the other strikers.
At Derby, once again, the Boswell brothers iPad substitute alarm went off on 70 minutes, and it was the usual 3 like-for-like changes on 70 minutes. That's predictable. The subs, same again on Saturday, wasn't it?
Slightly earlier on Saturday, but there is a pattern to it. That's for sure.
It's the like-for-like changes that does my head in. There's no willingness to change the system. You're losing the game, for God's sake. What have you got to lose? Same at Wigan. Nothing to lose.
Look at the odd game we've been exciting. Fleetwood away.
Through the kitchen sink at them.
We're singing Critchley sort it out. Critchley sort it out at 2-0 down at Fleetwood away. And he comes out and we threw the kitchen sink at it. He had no option. He had no option but to make those changes. Because if he hadn't made the changes, right, the crowd would have half lynched him, I think. Right? And it was just like he had no option, and he threw the kitchen sink, and we came out and we nearly snatched a win, didn't we? We should have snatched a win, really. But we went 3-2 up from 2-0 down. Peterborough at home, threw the kitchen sink at it because we were 3-0 down to 10 men, and had no choice but to throw the kitchen sink at it. Played exciting, crowd got behind him, bump, and we were 3-2, and like they got applauded off, right? Even the 0-0 draw at home to Portsmouth wasn't too bad, but we went down to 10 men and they fought hard, didn't they? Right. So the Wycombe game was nothing to do with a 0-0 draw. It was the fact of the intent of the performance and the speed of the passing and everything else. It just felt dire. And he got what he did. He went over to the fans and the fans booed him. And he sarcastically kept applauding then, right? But it's just when he has to throw the kitchen sink at it, and he does, obviously it's in him that we can play, but it's just few and far between. It's just the Bolton performance at home, Portsmouth away. We've gritted a couple of away games out, but pretty much the Bolton performance at home in the second half against Fleetwood, second half against Peterborough at home, and Portsmouth away. They're the four games away. You felt excited during those games. Why didn't he just, doesn't he see that? Doesn't he want that sort of thing? Does he just want a controlled game of pass, slow, round the back, the U shape?
He wants possession stats, Andy. I'm convinced of it. I'm convinced that's most important to him. Possession stats, keeping the ball, not giving it away. Let's have a look at Wigan, Nick. How he lined up for this must-win game. And the thing that stuck out for me the most was the benching of Dembele. 9 assists, several goals this season. All right, he failed to flat to deceive at Derby, but in a must-win game, you do not drop a player of his ability and ability to unlock defences and score goals. I just thought that was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen pretty much all season in terms of team selection.
Yeah, I mean, I was the same. You know, you look at and like you say, Dembele, he's had maybe a couple of quieter games, but I think we can forgive him that the amount of football he's played, and the thinking was probably he needed a rest, but we can't afford to give him a rest. That's the problem. Like you say, he's got more. Is he not 12 assists and 6 or 7 goals or something ridiculous like that? Just been nominated for League One Young Player of the season, and without him, you know, there's just where's the creativity coming from? You know, and you've got a team in Wycombe who probably got one eye on the whatever it's called trophy final now. The forget the name of it. You know the one I mean, the EFL trophy final, which is at the weekend. They said they were making a few changes because of that and the busy Easter period. They're comfortably in mid-table. They're not going up. They're not going down. So it's the type of team you want to be playing at this time of the season, and we needed the win.
10 assists, 6 goals, isn't it?
Yeah, and I thought it was double figures. So, yeah, and you look at that, and I just thought, well, we're going to have to be decent because if not, that he's going to get pelters for that because, like I say, Dembele is that creative spark, and we don't really have anybody else who's got that. He's played CJ. He's played CJ thinking, get down the wing and put some crosses in. And when he's on his game, that can happen. But when he's not, it definitely doesn't. And, I think most of what we did in the first half went through him, but inevitably it petered out. It either was an overhit cross or it, came off the defender or they cleared it. And it was a bit of a non-event, wasn't it, that first 45?
CJ playing in that position.
I think
it's just
when we talked about. Do you know when we talked about before about somebody picking it up? Norburn's the captain. So you want him to be that one who's giving it to the players, right? But he's the one that's stopping. In a lot of cases, he's the one stopping us play. He's just sideways and backwards. And I brought up again in this pod before when he's got his head up and he's looking forward, and he's looking for the gaps to thread the ball for the striker. He actually can play, and he does play, right? But it's so rare again that he's just he's settled into this way that Critchley plays, and he's quite happy to play this just a possession game. And he rightly
got subbed, Andy. He was terrible, absolutely terrible in that game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's not discuss the game because not a lot.
Well,
really.
It was the last 5 minutes, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
When we had, to be fair, that keeper made 2 very good saves from Gabriel and then from Beasley. And up the other end, I think it was Sam Vokes had a very good chance to, and probably should have scored.
Yeah. He should have put that in, by the way. It was just in front of me.
When he came on, I said to Jim, if they get a chance, he'll probably put it away.
I said exactly the same thing to Ben. I said, give him a chance, he'll score.
Yeah.
He had one put on a plate for him.
Yeah. And he didn't. But yeah, we had those 2 chances. But other than that, it was pretty boring fare, wasn't it, really, for kind of 80 odd minutes?
I think until Dembele came on.
Yeah.
Let's talk actually pre-match. I've forgotten about this. It's one of Tim's sayings. This isn't it? A general malaise. The atmosphere at pre-match within the game. It was just so flat. I think it's the worst atmosphere I've known all season at Blackpool, and I don't think the rain helped. But I think it was just a case of.
Well, I was in the. I was in the Arndale when that came up, and It was just like, have you seen the team? And like, just I look at it and just go, there's just a general huff of, oh my God. And here we go. And that people are laughing about some of the players in the team and why is Dembele not in? And I know Dembele's not been great, but he's the only one who's got a spark. And you bring him, but when as soon as he came on, he looked different in the game.
The whole atmosphere changed in the ground, Andy. Do you remember when he came on? He got the ball straight away.
Yeah.
Ran
Tried
at
to
that
run at
defence.
players and just
it lifted the whole ground. It lifted the ground.
And they're frightened of him, aren't they?
Yeah. But yeah, you agree, John. It was flat. And normally, sort of first 10 minutes, 15 minutes, the North's rocking, isn't it? But it wasn't even for that sort of first 10 to 15 minutes. And then you need something from the team to spark the crowd, and there was none of that. I mean, for most of the first half, you could actually hear just loads of conversation. Like at a cricket match where there's just loads of people talking, and it's kind of that hum in the background. It was like that, throughout the crowd, because people are just kind of sat around having their own conversations. And it was really flat. And I think there's probably a lot of people didn't bother. I think the crowd was just over 10,000. But the North looked, it looked a little bit sort of sparse throughout the ground, really. And like you say, with the weather, and you just kind of sat there, and there's very little, if anything, to get you off your seat, then you're not going to get the atmosphere, are you? And it is going to be flat.
Plenty of seats.
From where I sat is
empty.
Yeah, A block looked half empty. Down by us, behind me, there was, apart from two people to my left, there was a complete full row of seats, like unoccupied, and most in the row behind. It was just like, it didn't feel like, it felt like 1,500, 2,000 season ticket holders hadn't bothered.
Yeah.
I don't know how many it was because they never publish it, do they? But Hoggy on holiday, so Matty on the drum, but he, like as he said, he couldn't be bothered to drum because it was so boring, and we had a good go for 5 minutes when Dembele came on, but you can't believe how much CJ seems to have gone backwards.
Since he signed that
he was
contract,
doing all right, wasn't he, at the start? But geez, he's gone backwards now. Yeah, it is. What I can't really get is if they got to Wigan, something like 7 games left, was there, or something like that, when they got to Wigan. And they saying, like, lads, we've got to win 6 of these. So let's pile in. Let's just go for it. And even if you take the defeats at Wigan and Derby and then them sitting there before the home game against Wycombe and just think, right, lads, we're going to play 4 at the back. We're going to pile into these and we're going to throw the kitchen sink at them and see what happens. Right? Because we've got nothing to lose. We're playing crap anyway. So, like, let's change the system and let's fly into these today. Right, and get the crowd behind, and then if we get the crowd behind us for 3 games, we've got half a chance. And they couldn't put and they go
first.
out and put the bloody fans to sleep. And I don't buy this Critchley saying that he's. I don't tell them to play that way. I don't. You set this team up. The players don't look like they believe in your system, mate. So sort it out. And then your Boswell brothers, as many have alluded to, right? The Boswell brothers sit behind, a lot of us feel, let's be fair, that the Boswell brothers are just yes men to Critchley's way. Garrity is obviously thinks directly into line with Critchley, right? But we need, if Critchley is going to stay, and I really don't want that to happen, but I understand it probably will. If Critchley's staying, then this coaching setup has to change behind him. And we have to get some new blood into the coaching system. We have to. Right, there's got to be some changes, and this 5-3-2 can get in the bin and all before it starts, and he can sign players that can play another way.
Okay, Nick, what needs to change for Blackpool to be successful or to entertain the fans next season? Manager, players, coaches.
Well, it's not going to be manager, is it? I think he's still going to be around, and Simon Sadler's alluded to that. As I said earlier on the show, it's going to be a massive summer.
Sorry, Nick. Is Simon Sadler going to put up? Surely.
I think he will give him.
He's got to look at what we're all seeing, surely, and think this is unacceptable.
I think he will give him, but don't forget, he's given him a 4-year contract, and there might be a little bit of, I back my man here, and I don't want to, another wrong decision, and I want to try and see it through. There might be a little bit of that. I don't know, because obviously he's a man who makes very big decisions in his day-to-day business, and will back himself on that. So it might be a bit of, I've talked him up. I've given him the 4-year contract, so I'm going to let him not necessarily see all the 4 years out, but I think he will give him the summer and into next season, whether that's kind of 12, 15 games, Christmas, whatever. I think if it's not going to plan, then he might act, but I don't think he's going to do it at the end of this. I'll be surprised if he does it at the end of this season anyway. So, what needs to happen? Would it be the worst thing in the world if we got a number 2 in who would, again, like I was saying before, with a player who'll give a few home truths, maybe someone else to give a bit of a different opinion at times. And look, we need to do something at half time, not on 70 minutes. Player wise, you'd think Rob Apter's going to come back, and we're more than likely going to be in League One. So I'd like to see him involved, somebody who can get us up off our seats. Like Andy said before, a young player who we can relate to. So I think that needs to happen. Maybe we sign Jordan Rhodes, we will see. You've got to find an attacking replacement for Dembele, because he certainly won't be in League One next season. There's quite a number of clubs looking at him, aren't there? So he will definitely be gone. So it needs there's going to be an overhaul. And for me, like I said, I want to see an identity where even if we, I'm not saying you win every game, because you don't, but where you can come out the ground going, do you know what? Keep doing that, and we'll win more than we'll lose, and we're playing in the right way, and I'm happy with it, which isn't really happening this season. So there does need to be a change, whether that's a change in system or players who can suit the system better. He does seem stuck with that. First time round, he was prepared to change. Doesn't seem to, Critch Mark 2. Maybe we'll reflect over the summer. And again, that might be where, if you've got a number 2 who can have that different opinion, he might say to him, listen, change it up a bit with the players you've got. We need to do it a bit differently, or you absolutely make sure you sign players who can fit that system, and you're not playing, you're not shoehorning people in and the likes of asking CJ to be a defender for a portion of the season. So there's quite a bit needs to happen. And we will see over the summer whether it does.
Andy, same question to you. What needs to change for success next season?
Obviously, Critchley out. That's a given from my point of view, and fans who feel like me. We want him gone, and because we just don't believe in Critchley Mark 2 at all. He's not Critchley Mark 1. Swansea Julian asked me personally at a game if I felt that this was the same Critchley as was before, and I said absolutely not. I said that there was less fear in him before. He asked us to believe in a project. We spent 2 years believing in his project and getting behind it. There was a sense of excitement in the crowd. There was a sense of excitement in Critchley. It really, everyone got behind him, and it all worked. the Critchley Mark II having been sacked by Villa and QPR. And QPR one was the most telling to me because he was the number one there and he lasted 14 games and he was just taken out because he just couldn't cope with the job. And the Boswell brothers were with him there. And when he came back, he's brought the Boswell brothers in and it's just not been the same. He had to win over a few, I'll have to say that, because most of us felt a bit bad that he'd come back after 2 sackings and he'd just walked back into his job in effect. So he got a bit to earn the supporters back, and that's not happened. How can we say? And the stubbornness, complete and utter stubbornness of this 3 at the back is not what we had off him. He went up with 4 at the back, for God's sake. And then he says now he hasn't got the players to play 4 at the back. Well, let me tell him he's not got the players to play 3 at the back. So he might as well play 4 at the back because he's not worked with 3 at the back, has it? 15 games without a goal. It's not worked. Right, so play 4 at the back and have a go, and at least end the season having a go at the opposition and being excited and wanting, and let the players be excited about playing. Jeez, right? That's part of it. I've heard many things about a number 2. Lots of people talking about Bowyer, maybe Tomo or whatever. I honestly don't care as long as it's somebody who challenges Critchley's view and stops him being stubborn and lets him buy into the fan base and lets him buy into what we want as a town, full on excitement. Really, the town does well when we're excited. Blackpool's built on excitement, so let's get the football club playing exciting football. Then the crowd will get behind him, and then they're in a much better space. That's what having had a few conversations at the weekend, I honestly believe that Simon Sadler wants an exciting football team. Well, he can see for himself that it's not exciting, is it?
That's what he said when he first arrived, if you remember.
Yeah. And it's but as a town, we're better when we're excited. And there has been things, as someone's put in about Dougal. Kenny Dougal was a real pillar when we went up. Scored the 2 goals at Wembley, but he genuinely makes us a lot better in this league. He wasn't great in the Championship, Kenny Dougal. Let's be fair, but he was a very, very good League One player, and the midfield looked better with him in it this season. Right, as soon as we've lost him around just before Christmas, right, we've never been the same. We've never got hold of our midfield since, and it's just been boring. I keep using the word boring, but that's what it's been. There's not one chant from people around me on Monday. Not one chant. It was just everyone just in your Timism of a malaise, and that's what we're in. So it's got to change. It's got to change. It has to change.
Something has to change, Andy. Something has to change. We cannot go on the way we are.
Dennis, I'm not trying to say Dougal was some superstar, but he was a good midfielder in League One. He was a good midfielder in League One, right? And that's what I'm trying to get. But something drastic has to change. We're not on the right spiral now. We're spiraling downwards and spiraling to a real negative phase, and we don't need that as a club, because all that will do is it will cause season ticket holders not to renew. That will cost jobs to Blackpool people. Right, people in the ticket office, stewards, whatever. They're Blackpool people who will lose. They might be in corporate or selling corporate, whatever it is. right? They're the ones who will lose the jobs. It's Blackpool people who will lose the jobs. We don't want that, right? Get the thing excited, end the season in a wave of excitement, if nothing else, right? And stop the malaise and stop this piddling about with 3 at the back, and we'll be all right. Like, just go out and attack teams for the last 5 games and see what happens, and watch the crowd get behind them again. And then maybe the players will play with a bit of smile on their faces then.
Okay, Nick, any reasons to be cheerful?
My pie was good. Well, we talked about the start. Obviously, training ground is very good news. I think Rob Apter's, he's done really well at Tranmere, so he'll be absolutely buzzing. I hope he can replicate that for us next season, assuming we play him in the correct position and he's not shoehorned into being an inverted fullback or something. As unlikely as it seems, there is still a very, very small chance we could get into the playoffs, although there is a bit of me that I would never want us to lose, don't get me wrong, but there is a little bit of me that just wants to get to the point where, look, it's done. It's not mathematically possible, and let's get this season finished, have a rebuild, and look forward to next season. So there's always reasons to be positive. It's hard, isn't it, after such a poor season last season where we all thought this could be a season where we get it back on track and get it back together, and it hasn't happened. I mean, next season's not going to be a walk in the park. You look at the bottom of the Championship, and there could be some big teams coming down. I think looking like Stockport and Wrexham are coming up. I think they'll have a bit of a go. Wrexham will probably spend money, so it won't be easy next season.
A reason to be cheerful, Nick. They've got 2 potential good Northern teams coming up. We've got 3 potential Yorkshire teams coming down. So League One, if Bolton stay down, Barnsley stay down, I think League One will be a decent division to be in next season. I think
it will be. And David makes a good point that if somehow we did go up, we'd get clobbered, and we don't look like, look at the difference between kind of the teams that are in the playoffs and us. We do just look short, unfortunately. As good as we've been at home, we've been so poor away, and it kind of leaves you feeling, we are where we are for a reason. But at the start of a new season, every fan's optimistic, aren't they, and wondering, can this be their season? And hopefully it will be ours next season after what's happened this.
Well, we're 6 points behind Lincoln, 5 games to play, and it might as well be 7 points because they've got a far superior goal difference. So I think we can put the season safely to bed. Although we do have Cambridge coming up on Saturday.
They've had a couple of good results, haven't they? I think they beat Wigan on
3-1,
whatever it was over
Easter,
and won at Barnsley, which would have been a coup and buster. So they'll be confident, won't they? They're still kind of down there, so they'll want to be getting enough points just to see them safe. So we'll see. We just need to be up for it, don't we? Far more than we were in the last match.
It'll be just like us to go and put in a very high quality, exciting performance and wipe the floor with Cambridge.
And keep you hoping and getting you looking at the lead table.
See what Graham
it's the hope that kills you.
So if we win that, 3 points.
Did you see what Graham Butterworth's put in the comments?
Bring a number 2 and he will walk. It's an admission of failure. I mean, again, he's Critch really stubborn and just believes.
Bring a number 2 in then.
Yeah, bring a number 2 in. You wouldn't like it though if you put yourself in Critchley's shoes.
Yeah,
you would not like a number 2 being.
You might feel undermined, mightn't you? Yeah, I get it, but like we've said, something needs to change.
I honestly think
gents.
I honestly think if we it could all go really bad if for whatever reason we lost to the Cods, and then it would get nasty, I think, and like I think even the worst of the Critchley Critchley out people probably along the same thought as myself, right? I don't think even I'd want that for it to turn that nasty on him, but I do think that he has got to he's either got to go or he's got to wake up and really change his philosophy and quite quickly.
Can we just finish on a positive, because we said we would? Just very quickly, for those of you who know him, a gentleman called Mick Page,
Yep.
big Blackpool fan, and he's done a lot of the work for things like the big flags that get flown before the game, and also the signage in the South Stand. We are the Seasiders, and there is a phase 2 of the signage for the South Stand that's been agreed.
Brilliant, Mick.
Yeah, he's a great guy, and it's going to celebrate all our playoff successes, which is we know we are the most successful team, and he's raising funds for it. There's a raffle in the Armfield Club, the Fleetwood match, so tickets are on sale before and the draw's done afterwards. £5 for a strip of 5 tickets, so 5 chances to win. Half the money goes towards the signage project, and the other half is going to the Brown House hospice. So 2 very good causes there. So do get involved, and it'll be great to see the signage up. And well done, Mick, for all your hard work.
Yep. So yeah, get your tickets in.
And another bit of good news for those of you who might have heard us say on pods before about Mark Atkinson's wife Emma, who had a brain hemorrhage. She's now been transferred to Preston and in a rehab unit. She had a bit of a wobble at the weekend, but she's through that. But she's in a rehab unit in Preston now with a signed Blackpool shirt hanging up in the window. So, good luck, Emma. Hopefully you keep fighting and get well soon.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, well said, Andy. Okay, gents, then we'll leave it there. Hour and 10. Yeah, it's a good time to sign out. Right. So thanks for your input this evening, gents. As ever, just a quick one before everyone goes. If you are watching this on YouTube, do like and subscribe to the channel. It'd be nice to maybe hit 2,000 subscribers on there. I think we're edging ever so slowly towards it, but that'd be a decent goal to hit. If you do want to support the show, also we do run a Patreon supporter program where you get access to our WhatsApp group and other bits and pieces, early releases, ad-free pods and the like. If you want to go to patreon.com/seasiderspod, you'll find out more information there. Right, the season's not over. Or is it? All that makes me said is thanks for watching, thanks for downloading, and up the pool. Come on, the pool.
Up the pool.
Up the pool.